have a sister-in-law who could be considered the evilest person I've ever met, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. Let me run this situation through you. My brother, he passed away in a car accident, and it was tragic. He left behind a newborn, practically 3 months old. Well, his mother never wanted a kid. She only did it because he wanted a kid. Well, get this, she up and ran away from Ivy, her little baby, and I was left to look after her. See, myself, I never pictured myself to be somebody with children, but I'll be darned if I send that little baby to an orphanage. It's not going to happen. So for 2 long years, I raised this baby and we bonded. Me and Ivy. She was like my own daughter. Then out of the blue, she comes back into our life, and yes, I'm talking about her, and now she's demanding Ivy back because apparently she's in a better place mentally. Well, you know what? She should have been in a better place mentally when she abandoned her baby. Well, get this. I'm not giving Ivy back to her, and we can fight for it. I'm sitting here beside my niece Ivy, who's sleeping without a care in the world, her little hand curled around the edges of her blanket, her curly hair a mess against the pillow. She looks so much like my late brother, it physically hurts. I gently ran my fingers through her hair as I typed this out, knowing full well that she has no idea of the storm about to hit her tiny world. I never wanted kids, never had the urge, never saw myself as the mom type, but 2 years ago, Savannah, my late brother's wife, dumped a newborn Ivy on my doorstep with nothing but a diaper bag and a half-hearted, "I just need some time to find myself." My brother had already passed away by then. It was a terrible car accident, and the whole thing still makes me sick to my stomach. I was grieving him when she showed up, and suddenly I had a screaming, helpless newborn in my arms and no idea what the hell to do. But I couldn't say no. I wouldn't. She was my brother's daughter, the only part of him I had left. For 2 years, I raised Ivy like she was my own. I held her through sleepless nights, figured out her formula brands, wiped her tears, kissed her scraped knees, and learned how to be a mother despite never planning to be one. I changed my single rented apartment to a spacious one just for Ivy. I built my entire life around making sure she was okay. And now Savannah's back. I don't even know how she found me, but she showed up at the house out of the blue. Looking different, expensive nails, styled hair, a designer bag. She has a new fiancé, and apparently she's finally in a place to be a mother. Just like that. As if the last 2 years didn't happen. As if I didn't stay up late at night, night after night, terrified that I was failing this child because I had no idea what I was doing. As if I didn't watch her take her first steps, say her first words, and giggle and delight when I pushed her on the swing. As if I didn't become her whole world while Savannah was off finding herself. Well, our relationship was never good, even when my brother was alive. I tolerated Savannah because Henry loved her, or at least he thought he did. He was the owner of a small real estate agency that was growing well, and before marrying, he bought this property that is now worth a fortune. But after marrying Savannah, Henry seemed he was losing himself in bits and pieces. Yet he was holding on to her. I never understood what he saw in her. Savannah was cold, calculating, and always so caught up in appearance. I tried to be civil for Henry's sake, but she made it impossible. She had a way of twisting things, making me look like the bad guy whenever I called her out. She hated when Henry spent time with me, always acting like I was somehow taking him away from her. I saw through her even then. I just never imagined she would abandon her own child so easily, I guess you could say. Henry had his doubts about their marriage toward the end. He confided to me once, months before the accident took place, that he said like he was losing himself. But before he could figure it out, he was gone. And Savannah, she wasted no time before leaving. I half expected it, but I still wasn't prepared for the way she just up and left, as if none of it mattered. And now she's demanding Ivy back. Can you imagine the nerve? Legally, I have guardianship papers, but that doesn't mean I'm not scared. Savannah's rich fiancé is involved, and I know she might go to any extent to snatch Ivy away from me. She doesn't love Ivy, she never has, and yet she's suddenly acting like the perfect mom. Why? What changed? Is it for show? I've given 2 years of my life to Ivy. I've sacrificed my time, my priorities, and my own life to make sure she was safe and loved. I won't let that be snatched away by somebody who abandoned her without a second thought. See, I know what kind of person Savannah is. I know this isn't about Ivy, it's about her and whatever image she wants to present to the world. She called me a bitter, jealous woman when she visited me last day. Said I always hated her because she married Henry and I could not control him anymore. As if I want to control my own brother. But that's Savannah for you, always spinning the narrative to suit her. I did not respond to her that time, just let her sprout nonsense with her fiancé, pinning me with that threatening dead look he had. Thank God Ivy was at my parents' place, or I don't know what could have happened when she demanded to see her daughter. Guys, the worst part, I can't even tell Ivy what was going on. She's 2. She doesn't understand custody battles or selfish mothers who only show up when it's convenient. All she knows is that she's safe here, that she's loved by me, her Mimi. Yes, that's what she calls me. Mimi. And I love her too. I'll fight like hell to keep it that way. I have a good lawyer friend. I have documents proving Savannah abandoned Ivy, but money talks, and Savannah's fiancé has plenty of it. If she fights hard enough, there's a chance I could lose. The thought makes me sick to my stomach, and I just try not to think about it too much and focus on things I can control, like making sure Ivy has everything she needs and never feels like she's missing something. I give my best, but I don't know if it's enough. But I do know that I won't let Savannah waltz back into Ivy's life like she never left, and I won't let her rewrite history. I may not be planned to be a mother, but I became one, and I'll fight like hell to keep my daughter safe. I mean, wouldn't you? Update number 1. To those of you who are practically foaming at the mouth, telling me to just give Ivy back to her mom, this post is for you. It's been a week since my last update, and I'm absolutely seething. Like I think I might spontaneously combust. Level furious. I sat with my thoughts, let the dust settle, and now I'm back to set things straight. For the people who genuinely tried to give me fair advice, I appreciate you. I really do. But for those who came in here acting like I was some evil child snatcher, depriving a poor mother of her baby, strap in, because I know the truth now, and if you still think Savannah deserves oh so much as a second of sympathy, then you haven't even been paying attention. See, Savannah, she tried again. She's been barging into my home for the past few days this week and straight up had the audacity to demand that I hand Ivy over to her because she wants to move back into her ex-husband's home. Not, quote, can I see Ivy? Not, I miss my daughter. No, she wants to move back, as if she can waltz back in 2 years after abandoning like nothing happened, and then it hit me. She doesn't actually want Ivy, she wants what Ivy has. Let me give you guys some context. The property my brother built his house on, it's worth like $1 billion in today's time. Exaggeration, of course, but I think I mentioned it in my last post, and Savannah, she must have finally figured it out. Because until Ivy is of legal age, the house will belong to her guardian. And on paper, I'm her guardian, and ever since the real estate vulture started circling, trying to convince me to sell, Savannah suddenly remembered she was a mom. Oh, what a coincidence, right? Guys, I had my suspicions before, but how do they say it? This one sealed the deal. She's after Ivy's inheritance, not Ivy, not her daughter, who has no idea she's been used as a bargaining chip to her biological mother's pathetic games. My entire family was there when she made her grand exit, and trust me, not a single person has an ounce of sympathy left for her. She made her choice, she walked away, and now 2 years later, she thinks she can just snap her fingers like, ugh, mine, and take everything? Not on my watch. And before any of you come at me with, but she's the mom, she's right. Spare me. A mother is somebody who stays, fights for their child, who doesn't vanish the moment things get a bit inconvenient, only to pop back up when there's money involved in any capacity. Ugh. And now she wants to sweep it in and pretend like nothing happened. The sheer entitlement is making my blood boil. I went to snap Savannah in two for even daring to use Ivy's name to fulfill her own selfish greed, but I can't, because Ivy is 2 and this fight has to be fought with her. Getting in the crossfire would be horrible. You know what else is interesting? Savannah did not even bother with any legal channels. If she truly cared, she would have gone to court, filed for custody, and tried to prove that she was fit to take care of her baby, Ivy. But no. Instead, she's lurking around, trying to manipulate the situation, thinking that she can just straight up pressure me into just, what, handing over the child I've been raising for 2 years? It's pathetic. And to make matters worse, she has had the nerve to post online about this and throw a tantrum when I told her no, cursing me out, calling me every name in the book, as I'm not the villain here. She thinks I am, though, and she isn't even the one who tossed Ivy aside like yesterday's trash, is she? And her loyal followers, oh, they trust her crocodile tears, because after her post I received dozens of hate comments on my thread like every day. The hypocrisy is astounding. So let me make myself abundantly clear for the last time. Savannah thinks that she can play this game, when she can just demand her way back into my late brother's house, into Ivy's life, and to the inheritance she does not deserve. But she has no idea who she's up against. I'm not giving Ivy to her, not now, not ever, not as long as I have a breath in my body. If Savannah wants to fight, she's got one, and I will burn every single bridge before I let her win. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure Ivy never has to experience the pain of being used as a pawn in Savannah's selfish scheme. Because this is not about Savannah's rights, this is about Ivy's future. I refuse to let it be tarnished by a woman who only remembers she has a daughter when there's money on the line. So yes, it's war. Update number 2. The past week and a half have been an absolute nightmare. First it was Savannah, and now this guy, who I've never spoken to before in my life, watched me down at my workplace. Literally just waiting there like some bad movie villain all dressed up in fake politeness. He starts off by acting all reasonable like he was trying to negotiate. But the undertone was clear. He expects me to hand Ivy over. He told me Savannah is heartbroken. Yeah, sure. And that she cries herself to sleep, and that I'm the problem for dragging this out, and that I'm the unnecessarily cruel one. And then get this, he straight up threatened me. Not in some dramatic, I'll destroy you type vibe. No, he was smart about it. He brought up my job, my career, my reputation. He implied that he has the power to make my life very difficult if I continue being unreasonable. That's when it clicked for me. This isn't just Savannah being delusional. This is a coordinated attack. She's got people lined up, ready to twist the screws until I break. And as if that wasn't enough, Savannah's parents, the same ones who were completely absent these past 2 years, have suddenly remembered that they have a grandbaby. And guess what? They're on her side. They show up at all hours, pretending to talk about, I don't know, just escalating into a scene when I don't comply. They keep spouting the same BS. A mother should have her child. You can't replace her. You don't understand a mother's bond. Funny, considering they didn't care when her daughter abandoned the baby for 2 years. Where was this energy then? When Ivy cried herself to sleep? When I was making sure that she had a stable home, let me tell you, it was nowhere. And now they're making sure everyone hears them. Yelling, accusing me of stealing Ivy, making me the villain, and it's working. Neighbors I've known for the last 2 years suddenly look at me different. That I'm doing something wrong, but no, I won't back down. Unlike Savannah, I stayed. I didn't run when parenting got hard. She made her choice, and now that she's ready to play mom again, I'm just supposed to hand Ivy over? Absolutely not. The worst part, the legal system might side with her. Court loves a redemption story, even if it's BS. If she plays her cards right, she could win, despite being an unfit parent. And that's why I can't afford to let my guard down. No matter how much they pressure me, I won't cave. Ivy isn't a pawn in Savannah's game. She deserves stability and love, not some half attempt at redemption. So yeah, that's where I'm at, sitting in the park and watching my Ivy play with my parents while I type this all out. I guess I should be afraid of what Savannah's fiancé Jimmy and her parents could do. I don't know, but mostly I'm just, angry, and I refuse to let them win, and I'll fight like hell to make sure she gets it. Update number 3. After 5 days of long, continuous threats to me, 5 long days, emotional blackmail, I finally decided to visit my friend Mark, who's a lawyer. I wanted to get the guardianship paper, the same papers I didn't go through thoroughly when I received them right after Henry's funeral. But now I could not be at ease after knowing what my late brother had done. Back when Henry was in the hospital barely holding on, his last words to me were to take care of Ivy and keep her safe, right? I promised him I would, not even fully understanding why he was so desperate. I thought he was just afraid of leaving his newborn behind, but today I realized he knew what Savannah was capable of. He knew that she was a monster. And now getting the papers checked, I had no idea that verifying Ivy's guardianship papers would send me down a rabbit hole that would make my blood boil. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order to check if Savannah had any legal way to make Ivy get away from me. And that's when Mark let it slip. I don't think he meant to, but once he did, he just sat there shaking his head, saying he couldn't believe Savannah was still trying to pull this crap after everything that she had done to Henry. And I was like, hold on. What do you mean, what she did to Henry? What did she do? Turns out Savannah's been cheating on Henry for God knows how long, even while she was married. And when she got pregnant with Ivy, she was already looking for a way out. She didn't want to be a mom, she didn't care about the baby, didn't care about Henry, just wanted to be free to go live her fantasy life with whomever she was running off with. When Henry found out about her cheating on him post-delivery, he begged not to abandon the baby, begged her to stay at least for Ivy's sake, and Savannah, she agreed, but only after Henry promised to put the house in her name. Of course, Henry, being the smart guy he was, made sure that Ivy would be the real heir of the property, not Savannah. He had a whole plan in place. He tricked her into signing the guardianship papers in my name, telling her it was the property papers, and secretly he was in also the process of divorcing her, cutting her off completely. The papers were unfinished when he passed away. Savannah never knew. She just vanished right after the funeral, thinking she had the house to come back to. That is, until now, when she realized that everything legally belongs to Ivy. And until she turns 18, the ownership will be on her guardian. Now she's twisting the story, playing the victim, trying to weasel her way back in, and somehow in her sick mind, she thinks that she can take Ivy away from me to get the property back. Like hell she will. I don't know why I didn't see it before. When Henry was so desperate in his final moments, but I see it now. Savannah didn't just betray him, she destroyed him. And now she wants to take the one thing he died protecting. You know what? Not until hell freezes over. Henry, if you're watching this, I promise you, I won't let her take Ivy. I will not let you down. Update number 4. Alright, it's been 2 weeks since everything went down, and I finally have the headspace to sit and write this update. A lot happened. A lot. I was going to wait longer, but I figured you guys deserve to know how well it all played out. I'll try to get this structured, but bear with me because even though I'm calmer now, my hands still shake a little writing about it. So after my last post, I kept my head down. I had all the documents dug into Savannah's past and got all the evidence, but I wasn't about to make a move without making sure everything was ironclad. I talked to my parents, Ivy's grandparents. They immediately stepped up because they also wanted to keep the last semblance of their son safe. They agreed to keep Ivy with them while I handled this mess. I didn't want her answers to be anywhere near what was coming, especially not with Savannah parading in and out of my house like she owned the joint. And sure enough, she did just that. One fine afternoon when Mark was visiting me casually over tea, Savannah strolled into my home, bringing the circus with her. Her wealthy fiancé Jimmy and a smug-looking lawyer who clearly thought this was going to be a slam dunk. The lawyer, all businesslike, starts reading these ridiculous charges against me, claiming that I was illegally keeping Ivy from her mom, that I have no rights to custody, and that Savannah was here to take her daughter back. Savannah stood there, arms crossed, looking like she already won. You know the type, smug, victorious, acting like she was about to watch me crumble. She even had the condescending little smirk on her face like she couldn't wait for me to beg. I didn't beg. Instead, on Mark's cue, I calmly pulled out a folder, slid it across the table, and leaned back. Savannah's confidence wavered the second she saw the top document. She tried to play it cool, but I saw it, that flicker of doubt in her eyes, the twitch in her finger as she flipped the page. Because there was, in black and white, full legal guardianship signed by her. Ivy is legally mine. The smug lawyer she came with confirmed the same, his confidence slipping into complete disbelief of his client's stupidity when I told her where the agreement had landed her. Well, her signature was right there clear as day, and she had willingly given up her rights and now standing in my living room with her little audience. She had no idea how to talk her way out of it. Jimmy, bless his dumb heart, frowned and asked her what the hell's going on. Savannah stammered, trying to come up with excuse after excuse, but I wasn't done. Not even close. I handed another document. This one hit even harder. Henry had unfinished divorce papers. Savannah tried to laugh it off, but Jimmy wasn't laughing. He looked between her and the papers while her lawyer was already preparing to leave his idiot of a client. You know, I could go about seeing the gears turning in their head, and before Jimmy could say anything, Mark stepped in with receipts. Literally, bank statements, text, photos. Savannah's affair had been going on for months before Henry's accident. He knew. He had been cutting her off financially, getting everything in order to leave her for good, and the only reason she thought she still had any claim to Ivy at all was because Henry left the world before showing Savannah her place. And then I went for the kill shot. One last document, an email. Oh, Savannah, dear sweet mother of the year, had already talked to real estate agents about selling the home. The house Ivy was supposed to inherit, she never wanted Ivy back. She wanted control over Ivy's money. And this whole tantrum was because I was in the way of her scheme. Savannah tried to deny it, but I revealed all that Henry had done by tricking her to keep his daughter safe from her selfishness. Jimmy wasn't listening anymore to Savannah's reasoning, as his face went from confusion to disgust in the span of seconds. Turns out, Jimmy was planning to give her a property, but she always complained it was too small for someone marrying a wealthy man. That's when he saw the light. He was disgusted to see the way Savannah was ready to tarnish her daughter's future and her hunger for greed. Jimmy dumped her on the spot, demanding every penny he spent on her. And not just that, he wants it with a 10% interest? Savannah panicked, throwing out excuses, claiming that I forged the papers, and she tried the waterworks, but Jimmy was done. He left right then and there. Savannah was now left with nothing. Nothing at all, no fiancé, no claim to Ivy, no house, no money. She stormed out in the fit behind her fiancé, but I didn't celebrate. My gut told me this isn't over. Final update. 3 weeks later, this wraps it all up. Hey, guys, it's been exactly 3 weeks since my last post, and I just always knew since then that keeping my guard up was not paranoia when it came to Savannah. But I never thought that she would go so far as trying to abduct Ivy. The day still replays in my head like a messed up movie. My parents had to leave the city for an urgent work trip, and I had an important meeting, so Ivy stayed at daycare. Somehow Savannah found out, and I don't even know how, but she was keeping tabs on us. She showed up at the daycare behind my back and tried to manipulate the staff into handing Ivy over. And when that didn't work, she straight up attempted to take her by force. By some miracle, I got there just in time. The moment I walked in and saw her yanking Ivy's tiny arm, something in me snapped. Ivy was sobbing, shaking so hard, and my heart shattered. I didn't think I'd just acted. I shoved Savannah so hard she hit the concrete floor, scraping her little elbow. The daycare staff had already called the cops, but I wasn't about to let her get away with this. I pressed charges immediately. I've been glued to Ivy ever since. She refuses to let me out of her sight, and honestly, I don't blame her. Seeing her so scared, so shaken, knowing that she felt unsafe because of that woman, it broke something inside of me. I would do anything to make sure she's never gonna go through that again. Guys, for the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. Justice is served, and my brother's little girl is safe, and to me, that's all that really matters.